Searpoy, May, Williams.
We do have a quorum. I would now make a motion that we go into executive session. Do you have a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those contrary, no. The ayes have it. We are in executive session. I would now make a motion to bring before the body Senate Bill 1119. Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those contrary, no. The ayes have it. The bill is before the committee. This is Senator Trent's bill that we heard during our last hearing that creates procedures for the appointment of commissioners to the Convention of States, called under Article 5 of the United States Constitution. Is there any discussion on this bill?
Yes, my discussion is, since we're doing Article 5 of the Constitution, why we have to have an imbalance, like, in it, basically, when the legislative sets the joint commission, why it got to be 3 from the majority, 2 from the minority, why it can't be equal in reference to, since we're going into a convention?
Well, I mean, this based on the political balance that exists in the state right now, and at the time, presumably, when a convention would be called. I don't know. Senator Trent is here. If you would like to comment on that any further, please feel free to come up.
Absolutely, because this is going to, justify my no vote, and it's going to be funny if you're no longer have the majority.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. So the reason why it's framed up as majority has a controlling number of votes in the delegation is because you want the delegation decisions to be reflective of the political will of the state. And so that's why it's framed up as majority minority. Whoever happens to be in the majority at that time will be the politically controlling group in the state. And so, therefore, they should direct the actions of the state, because ultimately, whatever comes out of the state, out of the convention, will have to be ratified by the state, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but the political majority was manipulated through gerrymandering maps since I've been here over 16 years. So, does that account for it?
Well, I agree. The minority probably is overrepresented in this state due to gerrymandering. But the point is that the legislature will have to cast the votes in order to ratify any amendment that comes out of the convention states.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Senator Trent or discussion on the bill? Seeing none, I now make a motion that we vote do pass Senate Bill 1119. Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Luetkemeyer.
Aye.
O'Laughlin. Searpoy, May, Williams.
By your vote of 2-1, you have voted do pass Senate Bill 1119. I now make a motion to bring before the committee Senate Concurrent Resolution number 14. Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those contrary, no. You guys have it. The bill is before the committee. This is, for the benefit of the committee, the concurrent resolution that Senator Fitzwater presented during our last hearing. It recognizes and celebrates the special relationship between the United States and Ireland. Is there any discussion on this very controversial concurrent resolution? All right. Seeing none, I would now make a motion that we do pass Senate Concurrent Resolution number 14. Do you have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and doubly seconded. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Luetkemeyer.
Aye.
O'Laughlin. Searpoy, May,
Aye.
Williams.
By your vote of 3-0, you have voted do pass Senate Concurrent Resolution number 14. I would now make a motion that we exit executive session. Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those contrary, no. The ayes have it. We are out of executive session. First bill up is Senator Trent, popular in this committee, Senate Concurrent Resolution 11.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Curtis Trent, representing Senate District 20. I think the committee is going to love this concurrent resolution. So I will just read the operative part, the substantive part of the resolution, which is on page 2. Now, therefore, be it resolved that members of the Missouri Senate, 103rd General Assembly, second regular session, or the House of Representatives, concurring therein, urge the Missouri Congressional delegation to uphold the principles of federalism, to be proponents of appropriate action, including, if necessary, a constitutional amendment that affirms the authority of the states to govern their election process and establishes the ability of the states to enact policies regarding campaign finance and election influence in a manner that is consistent with established constitutional principles. This is about returning power to the states and having state legislatures decide what campaign finance rules, including the role of money, will play in elections. I think this is very consistent with the longstanding principles of federalism in this country and the way that our laws were set up for nearly 200 years before federal courts began to intervene back in the 70s. And this will allow states to tailor their laws to the particular challenges of their state. What works for Missouri may not work for California, may not work for Texas, may not work for New York. I believe that this is the best way to govern a sprawling continental republic is at the state level, wherever possible, rather than at the federal level. And it urges our congressional delegation to adopt that posture. And we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the bill sponsor, Senator May?
Of course I have questions. You know, I was going to ask what happened to the Republican federalism. You know, it kind of buried under this current administration. I'm so glad you're trying to resurrect it. I'm trying to figure out, you know. So my question is, you know, how might this resolution affect the ongoing negotiations between state officials and federal lawmakers regarding election policy and campaign finance regulations?
Well, it simply expresses the Missouri legislature's preference that those decisions be made at the state level.
Me and you might have some agreement on this. Oh my God, this is rarity.
As I suggested, I anticipated the committee would love this particular proposal.
This is definitely rarity. You know, is this? You know, I'm trying to. Let me ask you this: what response are you expecting from our Missouri Congressional delegation in reference to this, you know, enlightenment of, hey, you know, we have, you know, this is federalism, this is states' rights, you know, where have our states, because I'm looking like state rights have basically diminished under the current administration.
Well, I would argue that states' rights have been diminishing for decades now as the federal government has concentrated more and more power in Washington, D.C. However, I always hesitate to read minds, but I think broadly speaking, our congressional delegation will welcome this, and I feel like they broadly are supportive of these principles. So I don't anticipate any big pushback from our federal delegation on this. Thank you.
Any further questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, first witness in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 11.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Brian Boyle. I'm the Chief Program Officer and General Counsel at American Promise, and that's an organization that has a singular mission. This is the only thing that we work on, mobilizing support across the country for resolutions of this type. Since I've had the opportunity to speak previously with all of the members of the committee who were here today, I'll try to keep it brief. Our sponsor, Senator Trent, I think did an excellent job kind of teeing up what the goal of this resolution is. So if I could just briefly situate it in terms of the progress that we've been seeing across the country so far. And then I want to briefly talk a little bit about what SCR11 does do, and then also importantly what it doesn't do, because I think sometimes there can be some misconceptions about that. So first, in terms of situating this nationally, so far 24 states have passed resolutions similar to this, calling upon Congress to propose an amendment that would very clearly restore the power that actually states originally had under the original Constitution. For 200 years, decisions about whether and how to regulate money in your elections were left to the American people and their elected lawmakers. And then, as Senator Trent mentioned, that all sort of radically shifted about 50 years ago when the Supreme Court effectively transformed the judiciary into the nation's chief campaign finance policymaker. So the constitutional amendment would return that power back to the American people and their state lawmakers to make the decisions that are best suited for your state. That's the general gist. 24 states, as I mentioned, have already called on this, and to Senator May's point about, well, maybe this is a rare point of agreement, that's actually something that we hear in a lot of states. It's a place where we're seeing people coming together across some otherwise stark partisan divides because there's agreement on the principle of who should decide these types of questions, not unelected judges, right? That this is policy, that's not their job. So as I conclude, I just want to say briefly a few things about what the resolution does and doesn't do. So it's really important that this resolution would send a signal, not just to the federal delegation in Missouri, but to other members of Congress, that there's a real appetite and readiness at the state level for this type of constitution level solution. And that's, you know, part of what our organization does is actually go up to Capitol Hill and work with them, vet potential language for an amendment, and every time a state comes on board expressing the values behind their support, that actually really matters to the folks on Capitol Hill. What the resolution doesn't do and what the amendment wouldn't do is require you to pass any particular laws, right? So it doesn't say Missouri needs to change a thing. It doesn't say any state needs to depart from an existing court rule. It just says you have the choice again, right? If the rule makes sense, you can have it, but if you want a different policy for Missouri, if Maine wants a different policy for Maine, Utah, down the line, they can choose a different policy. So it's really a structural solution to a problem. And with that, I'd like to thank the committee members again, and also thank you, Senator Trent, for his sponsorship and leadership. And if there are any questions, I'd happy to address those.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
I should have asked this earlier. Oh, make sure to fill out a witness form if you haven't already.
Pardon me?
Make sure to fill out a witness form if you have not done so already.
Can I just leave that here?
Yes, perfect.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. How many additional witnesses do we have in support of this resolution? If I could just see a show of hands. Anyone in opposition to this resolution? Anyone for informational purposes only? Hearing none. Senator Trent, unless you have any closing remarks, that'll conclude the hearing on Senate Concurrent Resolution 11.
No, thank you for your consideration, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Next up is Senate Resolution 543. Senator Moon, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to present Senate Resolution 543. If you look at the resolution, it is amending Rule 96, specifically in Section 3, to provide live streaming to the public. There is one portion of the resolution that would need to be amended, I think, because the start date is March 1, 2026. I don't think we're going to be able to get that done unless we all use our cell phones to do that. So that would be one change that would be necessary. Now, why do this, you might ask? Missourians have requested it, first of all. It's just a basic transparency move. If people want to see the Senate and what we're doing, it gives them the ability to pull up it on their computer or even their iPhone or tablets and watch it. And, you know, realistically, not everyone can come to the Capitol to see what we're doing. So the live video would allow people all across the state to be able to see what we're doing in their homes or wherever they are. It doesn't change how we operate in the Senate. It just makes it easier for the people to see what we're doing. And it's really about access for everyone. So whether today we have a group of people here who are suffering from a disability, It would allow them to not have to travel and inconvenience themselves to be able to see what we're doing as well. Sometimes there are things that are done in the Senate that are misrepresented. We've all seen that. If we have a live feed, it would cut down on the rumors that perhaps exist or have existed. It's good for education too. Even civics classes in high schools would be able to use it in real time, or even as archived information to teach their students what we're doing here as well. Some have communicated to me that if we did this, it would promote theatrics and maybe even campaign speeches. And, you know, I could do that right now by looking at the camera here. If I were running for office, I could use this video if I would to request it and use that for my own purposes. You know, we already do that. And so I don't think it's going to add to or take away from anything that has been done or could be done in the future with regard to that. The bottom line is our bosses want it. Those who have elected us have asked for the ability for them to be able to live stream, or for us to live stream so they can see what we're doing. And now the ball's in our court. Will we listen to our bosses, or will we ignore their wishes? Any questions?
Quick question. So this has more to do with anything technical feasibility. So have you? I know you and I either had a conversation off the floor, or you had maybe made some remarks on the floor that your belief is that the current camera system that's being used by the Senate communications team would be capable of being converted for live stream. Have we confirmed the technical feasibility of that?
Have not. I've had some experience with camera work. There would have to be some mechanisms attached to cameras so that they could be put over the internet. So there would be some cost involved. $180,000+ though, I doubt that would be the case. Now, it would probably be feasible and I think good for the cause to have another camera perhaps, whether it's a fixed camera or one that can be whether by joystick or operated by a camera operator. So that could potentially be something that would be necessary.
Okay, and do you know, because I haven't read the fiscal note on this, the fiscal note for that figure that you just gave, was that, I assume, based in part on what the camera systems cost for installation and purchase over in the House chamber, and that's what it's based off of, that we would have a similar type of system?
I don't have the total answer on that, but there were some, I think some cameras are going to be attached permanently on the walls. I don't know that that's necessary, and I don't want to do anything that's going to adversely affect the building itself, and from that. So I'll get some more information for you on that, and I think it probably would be pretty quick in obtaining.
Okay. I mean, if we end up going forward with this, I mean, probably the admin committee is also going to have some involvement in this, because there's, if we have to purchase new equipment, there's going to be some procurement process, and we're going to want to probably put that out to bid. I'm kind of looking over at Christina right now to see if I get some nods. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
In addition, Mr. Chairman, if I could add one thing before the questions, I have in hand 126 supporting witness forms, and I know some committees don't accept those into the record, but I just wanted to let you know that there are people who have taken the time to complete one. There is one in opposition, and then one for informational purposes. So those are in these envelopes.
Is the one in opposition a member of the Senate?
I don't know.
You don't have to read it out loud. We'll take a peek later.
For my own pleasure, I'll look at that. Yeah. It's not too harmful.
Okay.
So, but it is an opposition nonetheless.
Fair enough. Any questions for the bill sponsors? Senator Searpoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to make sure, right now, this is being put out over the internet, right? Our conversation right now.
Audio only.
Right. But which is what we're saying, which is what matters. I mean, you've got a face for TV, I've got a face for radio, so.
I don't know that I would go that far, Senator. It's kind of funny you mentioned that because I have often.
If I had that mustache, I'd be all over this.
I can probably peel it off. I've often, especially in the House and sometimes in the Senate, like when I was out 2 years ago when my dad died, I listened, and there were times where if I didn't hear the district name or number, I would have to think, who in the world is that speaking? Now, if I had video, then I'd know right away, I think.
Or if you had your phone, I guess your phone doesn't say, it just says who's got the bill on the floor at that time. So that's probably true. But
Yeah.
what you touched on this, but one of the things that concerns me is, and I've been here now, this is my 9th year, and so the people have turned over, but there's always a certain number of egos in the Senate. And I'm just not sure more camera time would make the body a better place, because as you've heard over the years, some people take the floor and they don't need a lot of encouragement. I'm afraid this would maybe be some encouragement. And I also understand, I think the Lieutenant Governor, I thought he might be here today, he is, I guess he's pretty fully supporting this too. And I saw him on Facebook. That's why I thought there'd be a lot more people here from his Facebook posting. But it kind of surprised me because he misstates things so often on the dais. And I mean, yesterday he almost, with Senator Crawford, he misstated bringing the bill to the floor and misstated the perfection motion. And so getting more visibility for those errors after a year, I'm surprised that he's fully engaged with that, as well as it's a full-time job, but he's never in the dais. He's supposed to be there for tied votes, and I don't know what we do if we tie, because we'd have to chase him down someplace. But that kind of surprised me that he's supporting us so strongly.
On that note of guffaws, I've had my share.
Oh, I
And-
know.
And so it would probably, for me, I would probably want to make certain that before I rose from my chair or presented a bill that I would know more what I'm doing and be more on my game. I haven't always been, but I think it would probably be
Well, I think the motivation
encouragement.
for that is there now, because the audio is going out. And so I try not
But
to
they can't
stammer
see me.
too much. Right. Well, I guess maybe COVID comes back and we go back to masks. But it just
Yeah.
surprised me, some of the people supporting this. I'm not sure it's a great idea, but I
Yeah.
appreciate you bringing it forward.
Yeah, and I understand your concern because I agree there have been theatrics. There have been opportunities for campaign speeches. I don't think that's going to change it. Whether it increases it, I don't know. But we currently have the ability, with certain restrictions, to get the video and put it out there. Yesterday, in fact, when I was remembering those law enforcement officers who died in Christian County, I requested the video and put it out on Facebook just as honoring them. I'll probably continue to do things like that. Whether it would be increased for me personally or not, I don't know. I would hope it wouldn't.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any further questions for the sponsor? Hearing none, can I get a show of hands, how many people we have here to testify in support of the resolution? Okay. How many, do we have anybody in opposition? Show of hands. Okay. Let's start with the first witness in support. And if you could keep your testimony to at or under 3 minutes, it'd be greatly appreciated by the committee. Ron, come on up.
I didn't want to be first, but no one was getting up. I guess I'll break the ice. For the record, Mr. Chair, my name is Ron Calzone, one of the directors of Missouri First. Actually, Senator Moon said most of what I was going to say, so I'll be brief. I do want to point this out, though. There's probably nothing more important to our constitutional republic than the concept that we have representatives representing the people, and so that the people's will be done. And it's incredibly important that the people have an opportunity to monitor what's going on. And to your point, Senator Sopor, yeah, we do have audio most of the time, but I was surprised to find out that Senator Moon didn't recognize voices. I know I don't. And the district numbers sometimes escape me, so I think it's more transparency to have video. But I want to make this point. The framers of the Missouri Constitution thought it was important enough for the people to be engaged and to have access to actually put in the Constitution a requirement that the doors be open to this building anytime you're in session. Now, I think that if we were rewriting the Constitution today, that in the 21st century, they would say not only do the doors need to be open, but it should be broadcast. Congress is broadcast, the House of Representatives on the other side of the building is broadcast. It just makes sense for the sake of transparency. For the better part of 3 decades, I've been working with and helping mobilize grassroots folks. They are interested. And I'll be the first to admit that sometimes some of us get some things wrong. Sometimes misinformation is perpetrated. Transparency, the video would help to prevent that. It would help hold people accountable. And the last thing I'll say is I do agree that there will be some concerns about some grandstanding. If we're thinking about the same people that have been perpetuating the grandstanding, I think that if you videoed everything they said, you would find out that they were, you're giving them enough rope to hang themselves if you video all of it.
So I appreciate that testimony. I think one of the concerns that's been brought to my attention is sort of the converse of what you and Senator Searpoy have talked about, which is, is it going to encourage the member that's speaking to engage in more grandstanding so perhaps they can post the video on social media? But the converse is also true, which is you would have people outside of the building who may have a political axe to grind or maybe running an opposition campaign to a member of the Senate, and then they would scour the video and use that for political attack ads. And hang on, let me finish this. The Senate is really celebrated as being more deliberative of the 2 chambers. And so the concern that's been voiced to me, which I think is valid, is that could doing this have a chilling effect on people's speech within the chamber? In other words, people feel less comfortable expressing their full views because of a fear that it might be used in a political attack ad or something like that in the future. And I think that's a legitimate criticism.
It is.
And so wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
No, I agree. I've long thought that I would hate to be the president. I'd hate to be Gerald Ford or remember Dan Quayle. You're always under a camera. The one time you stumble, the one time you pick your nose, the one time, that's what they get the picture of. And so that is a concern. That is a concern. But we're talking about mature adult public figures that elected to be in this position. And I think that level of scrutiny is what the people deserve. And again, I think, maybe put this more succinctly about the grandstanding, I think the people that we've seen participate in the grandstanding, for people that watch it, they know it's grandstanding. They know when they've crossed the line. They know when they're no longer acting like statesmen. And I think for some of them, this would be condemning rather than empowering. Your point is right, but I think Senator Moon also pointed out that if you know you're being videoed, you might have to think a little bit about what you're going to say before you stand up.
No, but that's my exact point, though, right?
Yeah.
Are people, and specifically are senators, going to be less likely and more guarded about speaking their mind for fear that a video might be used in the future? And again, this is not going to be something that impacts the 2 of us who are hearing the bill right now. We're both terming out, so we're probably not going to.
And you're both articulate.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But again, it's been a concern that's been raised by several members who have kind of spoken to me in advance of the hearing, and so I just wanted to put it out there because I think it's a thought that needs to be vetted and given some consideration.
It's also just a rule, and if it doesn't work out, you can repeal it. But I will make this last point. Everything that you said is also true of having the galleries open. So sometimes the galleries are full, and there's almost always somebody in the gallery. And some senators, you're down there in the pit, and I'm sure that sometimes you kind of blank out the gallery, but they're there. And you have to be concerned about what you say and how it can be used, too, just from people that are there as eyewitnesses. So
it's a fair point. Any further questions for Mr. Calzone? Seeing none from my lone member, thank you for your testimony.
Thanks for your time.
Further witnesses in support?
Hi, Lisa Panett, Armor Vine. Probably anticipated I would be here. I'm all for transparency. I'm all for having more eyes on everything that goes on. I wish I didn't have to report what goes on in these chambers most of the time. I really do. I wish I didn't have to. I wish that there were video so that the people could actually see that we only have 2 members sitting in a committee hearing, that sometimes when I come in and people drive for hours, that they only get to see the chairman and speak to the chairman. I think it's disrespectful to the people of Missouri, and I think they deserve better. And in the time and age that we're in, for us not to have this, I think is shameful. I don't want people to have to listen to me and take my word on what happens in this chamber. I want them to be able to see it for themselves. It's what I've always wanted. So with that, I can take any questions that you might have for me.
Any questions for Ms. Panett? Senator Searpoint.
That's kind of my point, because a lot of times we have conflicting committees, and when you say we're not respecting them, that's actually not true. We have other responsibilities. I have constituents in my office. I may leave here in a few minutes because somebody needs to be upstairs. So it's not that we're out partying or drinking. We have other responsibilities as well as Senator Moon does. I'm sure you have conflicts in your schedule. And so if you would use that to say this shows these people do not respect you, that'd just be patently untrue.
Well, it's dependent on you as the senator to say where you are and what you're doing. Because when you say we're not out drinking, we're not out partying, I've seen the exact opposite. I've had pictures where I'm attending something and there is a member out drinking and partying in the garage sometimes. So, I mean, to say that that's completely false, it's not completely false. So again, I think it's good for you to be able to say, no, I was not in there, but I was in another hearing and I was presenting a bill that was very important to the people of Missouri, and they would respect that.
Seeing no further questions, thank you, Ms. Panett, for your
Thank you.
testimony. Further witnesses in support.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Thank you, guys. I'm Dusty Blue. I'm from Mexico, Missouri, running for state senate. I'm here because this has been one of the pinnacles of my campaign, just in general, of most of my adult life. You know, when I look at our city council meetings in our local municipalities across the state, when I look at our school board meetings, when I look at other factions within our communities, they're all live streamed. I mean, we're in 2026. And so the biggest thing that I'm hearing in opposition to this is maybe the feelings or the emotions of our senators. But I'm not hearing much about the people of this state, the very people that elects us to the chamber to represent them. And I think that's a disservice to the people, it's a disservice to the states, and I think that we need to strongly consider the people when making this decision. It's not about the representatives. It's not about the senators. It's about the people that we represent. And those are the folks that we need to be thinking about in this situation. I would also include that the vast majority of the country has live streaming in their Senate chambers. I believe Missouri is one of 2 states that doesn't do it. And I think in closing, I think it's either going to happen now or sooner or later, preferably sooner. Because again, we have to be looking out for the people of this state. I don't understand. I think it's very convoluted with the idea of what is there to hide by streaming the Senate chambers? Because someone might get unhinged or might say something that might not reflect their entire person. Maybe it was just a lash out, and we're going to dictate the transparency, the accountability that the people have elected you to do because of that one notion. I think we need to back up and get back to what our Constitution says, and that's get back to serving the people and what we're elected to do. Any questions?
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further witnesses in support.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, member of the committee, my name is Bev Valen. I'm testifying as an engaged citizen as well. And this is going to be the death knell on this resolution if it was wasn't already dead. I have spent more time at home this last session because of pink eye and sprained ankles and stuff, and I've listened in, and I had to look at my schedule because the Senate hearings they're audio only at the time of the hearing. I really appreciate the House being not only videotaped but archived. So I go back, I have a list of committee hearings, and I'm weird. Thankfully, there's not a whole lot of us weird people in Missouri, so you don't have a whole lot to worry about. But I go back, I have a schedule to go back and look at these committee hearings from the House because they are archived. And again, this might be the death knell because it's just a lonely volunteer person not here for the last 35 years who, for whatever reason, has been interested in state government. I used to have hope that our state government could do good things, great things, really. Now I'm just hope, you don't do bad things. Anyway, so just a reminder that your main reason for being as an office holder, as a public office holder, is to protect the life, liberty, and property of the people. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Halen? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further witnesses in support? Oh, and Bev, I should have mentioned this to all the other, Ron, Bev, everybody who's testified so far, just make sure you submit a witness form. Thank you.
Amy Castro, Johnson County, on behalf of Act for Missouri. I had something written, but as I'm listening to this, and I heard the objection of technology, as a Gen X, this is like saying I want to keep my landline when cellular mobile is available. We have these cameras, we have fine cameramen and women who are capable of running that equipment, and I think we could get this installed very easily. I know I interact with a lot of people who are working class. They're at work. So maybe on lunch they want to listen in, or they want to watch, or they want to go back. I see Mr. Serpoy smirking. I'm not sure why. I don't know what's... Well, that would be my husband. I can give you an example there. So I think it's time. There's 2 states that don't do this. So I think we're ready. That's all.
Any questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Further witnesses in support? Seeing none, any witnesses in opposition? Seeing none, any witnesses for informational purposes only? Seeing none? Senator Serpoy has one more question for Senator Moon.
Senator Moon, I'm just curious. The House has been doing this for a while. Did we have any information on their ratings? How many people watch that on average?
I have no information on that.
Do they have the
It'd be an
ability?
interesting question.
Do they have the ability to tell us that? Do we know, Christine?
They might run analytics.
Okay. I'd be interested in that. Okay. Thank you.
On that similar note, if the House is able to supply that information to us, I'd also like to know how many of those viewers are like within Jeff City, right? So are these like lobbyists and paid individuals watching from their house or watching from their office versus, I think what the concern has been expressed by members of the public here, which is it people out of town that can't actually make it in to see Senate deliberations, because that would be pretty relevant. Right. Senator Moon, any concluding remarks? Thank you. That will conclude the hearing on Senate Resolution 53. No further business coming before the committee. I move that the Senate stand adjourned. Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. We are adjourned.